Good morning, good people. Good morning. Well, today is Monday, March 17th, 2025. It's about 6 o'clock. Here we are once again in wonderful Pahrump-Tucky. Pahrump-Tucky, you choose. But here we are. It's a beautiful day. And I will say good morning, Miss Trinkle, wherever you are. How dare he use my name? Okay, shalom, Shibbos and shalom. Okay, so it's Monday, March 17th, 2025. It's about 6 o'clock in the morning. Here we are at Department of Career Services, where our goal, as always, is to help our people on their journey through this life. And we do it with a four parts. I don't like that word parts, but four components, let's just say components for now. System of physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. So physical, fitness and health. We have to keep this body in good shape in order for our soul to get moved around the world, right? We don't want to not be able to experience life, have this adventure, this gift that we've been given because our body is broken down because we didn't take care of it, type of thing. Okay? Mental, always be learning. ABC, always A, always B, C, learning, always be learning. Emotional, if you can't control your emotions, don't worry, someone else will, and they'll probably take you out of the game. You might want to pack up your stuff and leave. It could be that extreme. Oops, I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I hadn't said that. You made me do this. It's your fault. Emotional. Most people get derailed because of their emotions. Somebody else is controlling them. And of course, the spiritual side, which we talk about on weekends at G School. But here we are today. Today is week 4 in our neuroscience-oriented approach to success. Week 4, day 1. Nancy Keene. That's week 3. Week 4. I should do this to prepare. Week 4, 3. Okay, 4. Anyway, week 4, day 1, crisis leadership. Right. This week we're talking about leadership, which is really called power, but power, you say the word power and it conjures up a lot of emotions in people, like manipulation. Oh, you're going to manipulate people. No, power is just getting other people to do what you want. That's all it is. And there's a spectrum: positive power, negative power. No, let's do it this way: positive power, negative power. In Star Wars, the positive, there's this energy out there, right? Using energy to the good. It's called what? The Force. And people who do that are called what? Jedi Knights. People who use the Force for negative are called what? Sith. So the Force is out there. You can choose to use it positive or negative. So power is out there, getting people to do things. It's out there. You have to decide, or here we only use it for the positive. Now, additionally, there is a spectrum of leadership that goes from being in a crisis situation to a perfect situation. And we're going to go through that whole spectrum. Today, we're starting with the crisis. Crisis leadership, how to lead when everything is going bad around you. when everything's falling apart, how do you keep going? So Nancy Kane, Harvard Business School professor, who's been very supportive of our program for over 10 years, probably more like 11 years. I think 2014, maybe it was 2013, but she's been with us a long time, has an affinity for women going through the dark night of the soul, and has donated a lot of books and other things to us. I'm very honored and proud to have her care about our people. But she has a book, which I should have a copy in here. No, Crisis Leadership, or Lessons in Leadership. So for crisis leadership, she talks about Lincoln and Shackleton. Lincoln during the Civil War, crisis time. How do you deal with crisis leadership? And Shackleton, his ship is crushed, sunk off the Antarctic coast, and he now has a rescue mission to save all of his guys. Crisis leadership. What do you do when things are bad? And then the other end of the spectrum is pure leadership, and we'll do that tomorrow with Marcus Aurelius and Stoicism, where you have unlimited power. You can do whatever you want. And how do you stay good? And then the rest of the week is really practical leadership. So we're going to focus on Ignatius of Loyola and Stoicism as two things that pass the categorical imperative test. But today, crisis leadership, let's talk about that. But before we do, let's go to the worksheet. What is some advice from an 80-year-old? Advice from an 80-year-old. Do what Ms. Trinkle tells you to do. No. Well, yes, but that's not the advice from an 80-year-old. The advice from an 80-year-old, give people a second chance and a third, etc. In other words, don't write people off. Seth Godin. Seth has a long one. It's called Podcast. And it's a bunch of links to podcasts. I first wrote about them in 2005 and launched the Startup School in 2012. For years, it was a top 10 business podcast, even though I made them all in a weekend. It was a pretty quiet marketplace. My podcast, Akimbo, ran for 8 seasons, and I'm thrilled at how it continues to resonate with listeners. But mostly I appear on other people's podcasts. Here's an incomplete list. And then he lists 1 million, well, not quite 1 million, but a large number of podcasts and links to podcasts and more links to podcasts. Yeah, a lot of podcasts. I would say there's over 100. Okay, so there you have it, people. There you have it. That's Seth Godin for today. Daily Stoic. Let's see, that was a good one. Seneca. Compassion. Darren Hardy, I did not have a chance to listen to, but that's okay. We'll do that afterwards when we're doing the Zip Peloton over there. All right, crisis leadership. Nancy Kane, let's talk about that. So she has 10 breadcrumbs. And the main point why this is important is that she starts by saying that she's a Harvard Business School professor, and she looks at the long arc of history, the trends. And in her podcast, she says, how part of the reason is to figure out how we navigate into the next century. And we have to be careful. We have to take it very seriously. And the world has changed a lot, and it's changing ever more. And so she said there was the old way to do things where you get a lot of knowledge, a lot of information, a lot of data. You sort through the data, you can do the data, and you come up with a solution. Here's our strategy. But she said, right now, in today's world, there's too much VUCA, too much volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Volatility, it's unstable. It could blow up at any time. We might have World War III. Who knows what's happening in North Korea? Who knows what the Chinese are going to do regarding Taiwan? What about regarding the Middle East with Israel and Gaza and the Iranians? And what about Ukraine and Russia? What about the United States invading Greenland? It's very volatile. It's like nitroglycerin. It's unstable. So VUCA, volatility, uncertainty. What's going to happen next? Where are we going? Complexity. Well, it's not that easy. It's not that easy. And ambiguity, what does it mean? So we are faced with VUCA. So the problem is you can't get a lot of information, a lot of knowledge that's good. And therefore, you got to, as Nancy Kane says, you got to rip up the old template. We need a new template. And the new template is based upon wisdom. It's based upon experience. So if you take wisdom, you take experience, and you get a little bit of knowledge, now you can work from that. So her approach for this talk is to help people understand how to deal in a crisis. By getting that, we need more wisdom, more experience, not more knowledge, because knowledge is ever changing. We're always going to be behind. We need experience. We need wisdom. Wisdom. That's a nice sounding word. So we need wisdom to help us figure out, what do we do now? And so she uses Lincoln as an example and how you behave. And I think the first one of her breadcrumbs for Lincoln is, the world is my classroom. So an attitude of, I'm learning from what's going on around me rather than I already know. Some other ones I remember, the shaky floorboards of doubt, the ability to just keep moving forward, to not give up, to move forward, move forward, move forward. The ability to look at the problem from different sides. How does it look from here? How does it look from here? Forbearance, another one. Don't just react. Don't take the nuclear option. Scorched earth, we're going to burn everything down. Oops. I guess that was a little bit hasty. Oops. No, you don't want to do that. So crisis leadership. And then with Shackleton, which is an incredible story on its own, of how his ego got in the way. He had to get out in front of World War I, wanted to get out there, wanted to have his ambition was to be a great explorer. He felt he was on the same level as Perry and the other guys, but they beat him. They got things done before him. They weren't better. They got it done first. So this mission, this adventure was to walk across the Antarctica. Unfortunately, he left too soon, partially because of World War I, a little bit afraid of, if we don't go now, we're not going to be able to go. So they took off too early, too many icebergs, and what happened? The ship got stuck, and then it got crushed and it sank. And then the mission changed to, how do we get back? Because we don't have a ship. So one of the things they did is they had to take two or three of their lifeboats on a very long, like 800-mile journey to get from Antarctica to not just to South America, but to a certain place, Elephant Island. And then they ended up on the wrong side of the island, so they had to walk over the mountain to get to the whaling village there. And he made it. He and a couple other guys made it. And then they went back several months later for the guys, because they had to get a boat that would do it. And everybody was alive. So a great story, but the lessons learned there, one of which is keep your friends close and your enemies close. You got to manage the attitude of the people there. So if you have people that are naysayers, you put them in your tent. You got to control the emotions of the people on the journey and not lose sight, and little things to do to distract people. So crisis leadership, that's it for today. Because time is racing. Tomorrow we're going to talk about perfect leadership, Marcus Aurelius. Crisis leadership is important because what happens when you're in a crisis is the most important thing. Okay, so I think we're going to call it a day with that. And so I will say end cut and cut.